Are you alive? Well, that's what I thought. You know, they say you should never meet your heroes. And, seeing you here now, slumped pathetically in your big fancy chair like this, trying desperately to move. They may have had a point. Don't try to get up. I didn't think that the neurotoxin and the coffee trick would actually work, but you gulped down that whole mug without even a moment's hesitation, didn't you? No, your muscles aren't going to be obeying you for at least, well, for long enough. Who I am, my name, doesn't matter. What does matter is who you are. What all of this is. And this may come as a surprise to you, but when I was a kid, I absolutely adored you. Not this you, of course, but the mask. Yeah, I know about that. The you who went out at night, who stopped the bad guys and made us safer. All your fancy gadgets and tools. All so cool to a kid who didn't understand what skunkworks projects were. Or how much it costs to develop things like wrist-mounted grappling hooks and portable EMP generators. Or what a military-industrial complex is. In retrospect, it's all so obvious, you know? But at the time, nobody thought about it too hard. Least of all me. Of course, I was too worried about where my next meal was going to come from to worry about you. Dad did his best, but, he brought me with him to this country. Before I was old enough to even say words like societal collapse, failed state, much less comprehend how they factored into my life. I'd name the country whose collapse we escaped, but they all sort of blurred together back then, didn't they? You'd recognize it, though. I seem to recall you buying up quite a lot of it once it got tossed onto the bargaining table. All it took was for a few party brats to take over after their geriatric old daddies resigned in disgrace, and suddenly, the blood and guts of a nation-shaped, decades-long monument to human persistence were being lopped off and sold like it was a goddamn fire sale. You were lucky enough to see which way the wind was blowing, though, weren't you? Weren't you? As soon as they ran out of infrastructure to sell and started clawing each other's throats out, you were already there with boats full of guns and tanks for sale. You'll be happy to know, by the way, that your equipment worked wonders. Your products raised my city to the ground faster than I could blink. My apologies. I get rather frustrated about my past. So we came here, genuinely hoping for some of that peace and prosperity that we'd always heard about back home. Instead, I grew up in a filthy apartment eating moldy bread in a city full of people who made it abundantly clear that they did not care whether I lived or died. One of the few toys I had back then was one of those old action figures that they made of you. Remember the ones I'm talking about? With a little glider on the back? I wore that thing out playing with it as much as I did. I remember I used to look at it and think, if I had what he had, I could finally get back at that mean landlord who keeps stealing Dad's money off the counter while he's at work. If I could talk to him, maybe he could help us find a better place to live. If he could have been there, maybe we wouldn't have had to leave our old home. Maybe we wouldn't have had to leave Mom behind. Imagine my surprise then, when I found out that you had been there. When the pieces finally clicked, as I stared at your picture on that cracked old laptop I dug out of the dumpster. When I realized what you'd been doing all this time. Using all of your power and wealth to fund your masturbatory nightly adventures and salve your fucking conscience. I think that was my final straw, actually. That moment. That final betrayal. There was no going back after that. You were supposed to be our last dance as a society. The fading afterglow of the end of history. We'd all seen the writing on the wall, and you were going to distract us from it. To let us feign ignorance of what was happening all around us, every day. To somehow save our dazzling Technicolor dream from its own rotten, oozing foundation. The world looked at you, after the dust of the last century had settled, and said, finally, someone who can help us. Someone who can save us from the mess that we made. But does it count as naivete on our part if we knew exactly what we were doing at some level? If we knew deep down that some rich asshole with a budget and unlimited free time could never really solve all of our problems. And lo and behold, you didn't solve a damn thing. You just beat the shit out of the poor and the ill, and then you called it a night. And then you didn't bother to ask yourself why they were poor and ill in the first place. No, you were never our savior. You were the punchline to a sick joke whose setup we were all too afraid to really say aloud. You were a monument to the sins of a dying empire, a marble statue for us to point to in 1,000 years and say, you know, that's where we went wrong. That's when we stopped even pretending to hope for something better and chose instead to lay down and rot. You were nothing but a tool. And you were so eager to be used as one, weren't you? But now, your services are no longer required. Your time's up. The age of the masked hero is more dead than the dreams of those who lived through it. We tried it your way, and look where it got us. Same shit, fresh coat of paint. We think maybe it's time that we tried a different way. A new way. Our way. Oh, no. Shh. There won't be any more talking. No, we've been trying that for years, and no one has listened. It's a bit too late for that now, don't you think? Excuse me? We're simply doing the thing that you've been claiming to do since I was a kid. Fixing the problems that no one else can. By force. Look, we have no compassion, and we ask no compassion from you. It's nothing personal, really. Well, I guess it is for me, but for most of us, you're just an obstacle. Or a symptom, I suppose. Oh my god, you don't get it. You keep talking like I'm somehow acting out of misguided revenge, or as if I'm leading some band of thugs against the good and decent people down below. But shut up for a moment and listen for once in your goddamned life. You might finally be able to hear them. The gang's all here. And it turns out that despite all of your gadgets and money, there's not really much that you can do when we all just decide to get rid of you. Is there? Well, you know, it's been real nice finally getting to meet you. You've been a blast, really. But, I've got things to take care of down below. But you're first. Come here. Look at you. I suppose it's true what they say after all. Never meet your heroes, kids.